Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show podcast. Today we have Brian Lee on the show. Brian, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Buster. Excited to
Well,
be here.
we've got so many things to talk about. You have one of the most insane resumes that I have ever seen in my life. But I want to start with a mutual passion of ours, collectibles. How did you get into collectibles? And obviously, you're a savvy business guy. You started businesses that you saw long-term potential in. What was the thing that convinced you that collectibles and sports cards specifically were here to stay and grow?
Well, I've always collected ever since I was a kid. I started collecting baseball cards when I was about 7 to 8 years old, like many of us. My dad took me to my first Dodger game, and I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with Steve Garvey, our first baseman at the time. And I remember, the next day I rode my bicycle to the local comic and card shop in Fountain Valley, California. And I bought a Steve Garvey rookie card. I still have it today, by the way.
Oh, that's
Um, yeah, I got it graded. I graded a two, so I didn't really take care of it very well. But regardless, that's what got me hooked. And I've been collecting ever since. Like most of my friends stopped, junior high school, whatever. I just kept going. I would go to card shops and card shows. Anytime I traveled to a new city, I would actually try to stop by their local card shops. So I've always been into it. And in terms of, creating a business out of it, I honestly, I love this industry. I love the hobby. I've had so many years of enjoyment. My son started collecting with me when he was about 7, 8 years old as well. And so we would spend weekends going to shows and shops and so forth. Um, but I just wanted to make it better, truthfully. I was getting a little frustrated with what was out there and what was happening. And, it was, I know. Many of us have had those frustrations, and whether it be sending cards to get graded and getting cards back that you thought should have scored higher, or sometimes they score, you know, higher than what you thought. So it's just kind of all over the place on that side, and then on the marketplace side, I was getting a little frustrated with non-shipments, non-payments, shield bidding, trimming, fraud, the whole thing.
Yep.
And I thought I could make that better in terms of marketplace. And so that was the genesis, really, of Arena Club. We launched about a year or so ago, and it's been a lot of fun. I can't believe how much fun I'm having. Actually, I feel like that 7 year old kid again, biking to the card shop. But it's just been a joy to be part of this and to assemble such a great team to help us grow this.
Love it. Now on the business side of it, what's the most surprising thing that you've since learned about the hobby that you didn't know before starting a business in it?
You know, there's a lot of things that I've kind of learned. Number one is the velocity and how quickly the market changes for players. I mean, a player could have an amazing season, have one really bad game, and then you see the effects on their cards, and it's
Yeah.
I never realized it was almost real time, in terms of the fluctuations on prices of players. And now that I know that, I remember when certain news came out about a certain player being suspended for a certain amount of games in the NBA. I remember going to my desk and trying to sell those cards as fast as possible. But yeah, it was just, it's just one of those things. It's like I kind of learned how fast these things move. But it's still fun. It's still a lot of fun to pay attention to all of it.
Love it. Now you have some great partners on this business. Derek Jeter being one of them. The
Yeah.
Yankees, great. I grew up in the city. Grew up, with Derek Jeter has been the shortstop for more of my life than he has not been. So that's a crazy fact there.
Wow.
How did that relationship come about, and what sort of his stance on cards and collectibles?
Yeah. So Derek is a wonderful partner. Well, number one, he's a wonderful human being. And I just love working with him. He's always been into collectibles, mostly memorabilia, sports memorabilia. He lost a lot of his cards when he was younger to a flood in his parents' basement.
Damn.
So that was kind of a heartbreaking situation. But he's kind of gotten back into it, And so I met him years and years ago. I think at some charity event, and we just hit it off, and I really liked him. And he said, if you ever do anything in sports, let me know. And I always had that in the back of my head, like if I ever started something in the sports category to reach out to him. So I did share the idea of Arena Club and the vision for it, and he got it right away. And he's just like, "I'm in. Let's go do this." And so, he's been part of the journey since we started. And Jesse Glass is my co-founder here. He was with me at my other companies, and so the three of us kind of co-founded this company together.
Yeah, Jesse's awesome. I spoke to him a couple weeks ago.
Oh, good, awesome,
Uh,
good,
he's got phenomenal energy as well.
yeah.
Um, that's really cool. Do you know if Derek has any like incredible memorabilia that you were surprised he owned?
Well, he keeps a lot of his memorabilia from like his 100th home run or
Oh,
whatever, like all those kind of
he
things,
kept
or
all
the yeah the glove that he used in one of his winning games. It's like all that kind of stuff. He keeps it all.
that's that's smart. Most players don't do that.
Yeah.
Very sharp. Now, a question: when you have, uh, celebrities or famous people involved on a partner level or a founder level, you've done this before with the Honest Company, but in this case as well, how do you know what to expect from a celebrity partner in something like this? Is that something that you just figure out as you go along, or how do you sort of figure those things out before you get into business with someone like that?
Well, it's truly more about relatability and authenticity, and whether or not that celebrity or influencer brings that to the table. And in terms of someone like a Derek Jeter, I mean, he's beloved, right? He's just a beloved player. It doesn't matter if you're a Yankee or a Red Sox fan, honestly, you're going to respect Derek Jeter, right? Everyone in LA, even though I'm a Dodger fan and I didn't want to play against Derek Jeter or I didn't want the Dodgers to play against, but you respect him, right? And that's the thing. It's like someone like a Derek Jeter brings so much credibility to what you're doing and what you're building. Um, and he's just brought a lot of excitement to the sport. We brought him out to the Nationals this past summer, and it was pretty fun, right? It was like pretty amazing to see how many people turned up to meet him at the Nationals, and he had a ball. He really did. He was really blown away at how large the industry is. Especially with something like the Nationals, where it's like, yeah, I mean, you could get lost in there, right? So yeah, he was pretty amazed.
That's really cool. What do you think the hobby looks like in 10 years? Like when you really think about it far out, is obviously there's a lot of new news and newness with Fanatics coming into the space and Panini's, role in the space and other new companies coming out. What do you think the hobby looks like in a decade?
I think it continues to grow. I think it continues to grow, and I think there'll be more companies like Arena Club that will innovate in this space. I think a lot of the companies that have existed for many many years, are a little behind, truthfully, when it comes to technology and the use of technology. So I think you're going to see more and more kind of innovative tech companies coming into this space, and you're already kind of seeing it with some. I think Look, I think breaking is here to stay. I really do. I think it's just so much fun, going on to a break and seeing what you get and so forth. And I think that's going to continue for a while. But what makes me happiest and gives me the confidence that this hobby is here to stay and will continue to grow is every time I go to a card show, I just kind of look around to see how many kids are running around, and I see more and more kids, right? And that just tells me the future of this hobby is strong. It's here to stay, and will continue for the next generation.
Yeah, it's a great indicator. No, that's really cool. I saw that at the National as well.
Yeah,
Huge amount of kids, and I just want there to be more great card shows. I think that would only, you know, further that growth around the country too. Like there should be
yeah,
three nationals a year, and there should be one in the East Coast, one in the middle, and one on the West Coast. The West Coast is probably most underserved when it comes to like really big card shows, and around
yeah,
the world too, right? This should be
yeah.
a global.
Although the Burbank Card Show is turning out to be really stellar. I'm not sure if you've made it out yet, but
Yeah, I have.
you
I,
should
I went
come.
to I think the first one. Yeah, they
Yeah,
did a great job.
yeah, yeah. So this it's a pretty good show. I mean, it's not the Nationals, of course, but they do a really, really good job. So I'm happy for Rob over there.
Yeah, they've done a really cool job. I want to talk about repacks quickly because
Yeah,
I said this to you before we hopped on. The value proposition, I think, in traditional boxes is pretty far off at this point. Back in the day, when I first got into cards in probably 2012, 2013, uh, the best boxes were, I mean, great boxes you could get for $100, and you would get multiple autographs, you would get multiple game-worn patch cards, and it almost feels like both it's gotten more expensive and you've gotten less out of it, which is such a confusing dynamic because now you can't get a hobby box for under $500 and
yeah,
you're pulling a card with a jersey that wasn't even seen by the player. Whereas with repacks, and people like to clown on them, but my perspective is on this, and I'm curious yours is that the percentage return on happiness, coolness, and value is a factor of 5 plus higher than the average, you know, ROI on a card box.
yeah. I mean, look, we launched slab packs last week to much fanfare, and I think the vast bulk of folks were extremely happy with the value that we put in there, with the transparency that we're providing, and how fun it is, truthfully, to rip these cards open online and have them show up into your online showroom, and you can buy, sell, and trade with each other. You can call the cards back, and we'll mail them to you physically. So it's just a lot of fun. But the reason we did it was because Arena Club is truly on a mission, right? Arena Club, we're trying to build what we call a digital card show. And anything you can do at a physical card show, we want you to be able to do here, right? So whether that be, like on-site grading or buying and selling and trading cards because you have a little booth in front of you at a physical card show, online at Arena Club, you get a showroom, right? And you can buy, sell, and trade with each other very, very quickly. Then also like mystery packs or slab packs, we call them slab packs. Um, you can buy those at card shows, right? We're going to have meet and greet with our athletes coming soon, right? So that's something that I haven't really talked about much, but it's something that's coming. And so
Yeah,
we want that full card show experience, right, online at Arena Club. And so that's what we're trying to build. In terms of slab packs, though, the reason we did it um, it was really more about transparency and doing right by the community. Because again, I'm a collector. I love the industry. I buy mystery packs all the time, right? And I literally bought a $300 mystery pack and got a $15 card out of it. And honestly, I was like, what the right? It's like what's going on here? Like what is going on? And
That's
I'm like,
insane.
dude, yeah. I'm like, what? And then I was walking around a show, and one of these dealers was telling me, he was kind of bragging to me that he has like 90% margin on his mystery packs. I'm like, dude, the only way you're getting 90% margin is putting 1 cent cards into these packs. It's like, what are you
Seriously.
doing? And the thing is, I mean, you can fool people one time.
Yeah,
You
but
can't
you want
fool
them to
them
be repeat
again.
customers. Yeah, you know
Yeah,
that.
like it's like literally it's a grab for cash for a lot of these folks, and I just felt like we could do better. We could do better. We could be transparent. So at Arena Club with the slab packs, we show you every card that you could possibly get and the ratios, the hit ratios for each card, right? And if you hit those cards, they disappear from the list into your showroom, right? And then get replenished with equally valued cards. And so it's a constant kind of replenishment system going forward as well. Um, and so it's just very different because again, we're bringing that layer of transparency. We're bringing, I think, unmatched value because we're not in this for purely the profit and the margin. We're out there to create as much fun as we can with as much transparency as we can. That's the number one goal. Yeah, eventually we'd like to make money from it, but right now the goal is let's just do right by the community.
Yeah, and I can imagine with a lot of those people you were mentioning with 90% margins, their churn is 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a single person that's
Exactly.
paid. You can fool somebody once, but you can't. The hobby is smart. You
Yeah,
cannot fool people twice.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are sort of the key indicators that you look for when you think about getting involved in a company or investing in a company? What are those things that you look for in every single company?
You know, for companies that I start, I look for, industries that can be disrupted, right? That you could really innovate upon and bring something new to an existing industry, uh, and bring excitement to it. And the opportunity to truly build a brand and a brand name. So I look at this industry, the sports card industry especially. Um, and look, there are a lot of players, right? There's a lot of players in this category, but there's very, very few that people actually know outside of the hobby. So if you're not a collector, honestly, you haven't heard of 98% of these companies that we all know, Buster, right?
Sure.
But if not, but yet 60% of men born in America have cards somewhere. They have them in a shoebox, under their bed, in their attic, their basement, their parents' house, somewhere. And so these are all folks that we should bring back into the hobby, right? They're missing out, man. They're missing out on the fun that they used to have when they were kids. And I want to bring that back to them. But the only way you do that is by building a business that goes beyond this hobby as it stands today.
Hmm. So 60%, that would be almost 100 million people.
That's right. That's right. No, actually, maybe about 80 million people, because you
That's
have to imagine some are kids, and some are the population is about 300, a little north of 300 million. Half of that male, female. Yeah. Anyway, you get it. There's a lot.
That's a lot of people. Well, the point I'm making is it's a lot more people that are in the hobby now by
Oh
a
yeah,
like
absolutely.
significant margin.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think would bring those 70 million people in?
Building a brand. Building a brand. So I did the same thing when I started LegalZoom.com, with a friend of mine and with a couple friends of mine. And we started it because we saw how large the legal industry was, but yet there was no brand name in law. There are some, large law firms that business people have heard of, or like local personal injury lawyers, but no national brand name. And so we've always felt like if you built that brand name in law, like the only name that people know, LegalZoom, right? Then it's worth something, right? And so that's what we set out to do when we started building. And look, to build a brand, it takes time, right? It takes a few things. It takes time, it takes money, and it takes extreme consistency in your promise, right? So if you deliver upon what you promise over time consistently, you will build a brand that resonates with people, that people trust, that people could rely on. I mean, there is very business at its core is very simple, right? You just have to deliver what you promise, right? So, for example, the reason why McDonald's is McDonald's is because a Big Mac in LA tastes just like the Big Mac I get in Miami, right? It's extreme consistency, and it's the promise of delivery of that same Big Mac anywhere you go in the world, right? And that's why it's McDonald's.
Yeah, delivering and over delivering have uh, good effects when they compound. You do it over a long period of time. I read before this that is it true that you bootstrapped LegalZoom?
Oh yeah, yeah. We started
So
with nothing.
how does that happen? It's so foreign to today's startups because anybody and their mom starts a company today and they're like, "Oh, I need to raise $10 million because that's what everybody does." But do you
Mhm.
think that more companies should bootstrap today? Or,
Look, if you don't need to take venture capital money, you probably shouldn't. If you could build it on your own profits and kind of build it over time, you're probably better off in the long run, right? It's yeah. I say take venture capital if you have a real clear path to profitability and to building something very, very large quicker, right? Than what it would take to bootstrap something. But at the same time, you're also kind of beholden to the venture capitalists at that point too. So if you're going to take in capital, you're not necessarily just your own boss anymore, right? You have people to answer to, and so it's a balancing thing. It's a give and take. So sometimes you can bootstrap, sometimes you can raise venture capital. It all depends on the situation, and the context.
Sure. For LegalZoom, was the goal to bootstrap from the beginning, or is that just something that
No,
your
we
success
just couldn't
enabled?
raise it. Yeah, we couldn't raise money. We
Oh,
sucked at it. Yeah, I mean we went to probably 40 or 50 venture capital firms and they all said no. Every single one of them rejected us.
they
Yeah.
regretted that one.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where like, well, how much do you really believe in this idea? And me and my partners really believed in it. And so we're like, we're just gonna do it anyway. And we got lucky. Truthfully, we got lucky over time. We were very early when it came to online advertising. We were one of the earliest advertisers for search engine marketing when it first started. So the first company was based here in LA called GoTo, 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 and that was really the backbone for paid marketing, paid search marketing. And so we grew with that category and kind of built a moat around what we were doing, and then started going into radio and television and everything else eventually. But yeah, we kind of lucked out to be in the right time to take advantage of online marketing.
So you were able to build that brand for, I mean, I'm curious what you think that number would be, like 2 cents on the dollar today if somebody tried to reach all those same people that you did.
Yeah, definitely. Like it'd be astronomical. It would be very, very difficult to do that today, truthfully, because online marketing has become very, very expensive.
That is crazy. So now with Arena Club, how are you thinking about marketing differently? In today's day and age, and for this, audience.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's still room for online advertising, which we're doing a little bit of, but there's of course, a whole world of other types of marketing that we could use. We're working with a lot of influencers as well, and people in the hobby, going to a lot of card shows and having presence at these card shows, and just kind of building that base that way. Reaching out to heavy collectors to have them try out Arena Club, and that's working. We're partnered up with a lot of card shops around the country now who have showrooms at Arena Club, and so that's been a lot of fun working with them. Um, yeah, so there's just a bunch of different avenues that we're taking.
And you guys are doing the most powerful one too, which is the word of mouth. When you do a
Yeah,
good job, things happen.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of folks talking about Arena Club, which is fantastic.
Do you have a favorite card in your showroom, or a favorite on the whole platform?
You know, I, I have a lot of cards I love in my showroom. Um, I think this is very personal to me, but I have a shelf on my showroom called Asian Icons, and basically I collect every Asian sports hero that I remember or recall or read about and so forth. And so I've got some amazing, athletes who are in that Asian icon category. Like I have this
Who's the
beautiful.
greatest? Who's the
I
greatest
have a.
athlete to come out of
Oh, I
Asia?
don't know about that. There's so many. It's hard to say, honestly. It's like, it's hard to say Yao Ming isn't on that list. He is, of course, and but I go historic as well, so it's kind of hard to find. But like, I found a really nice Normie Kwan card, and it's in my showroom. Normie Kwan was the very first uh, professional football player as an Asian. His rookie
Cool.
year was 1958. So
Wow.
this is really, really early, right? When there weren't even that many Asians in America. It's like, so for him to turn pro in 1958 is quite amazing.
And there
And
were no
so I have
pads in
his.
football either.
Yeah, there are no pads. Yeah, exactly. Um, and so, I have Sammy Lee, the Korean American diver who won the Olympics, a gold medal. It's like, so I've got got a lot of cards in that Asian icon category, and I'm very proud of it.
That's very cool. I had Tracy McGrady on the podcast a little while back, and he told me the craziest Yao Ming fact that I will never forget. It
What
was
is it?
that there was a regular season game between the Rockets and the Bucks. Yao was playing, and Yi, I don't remember how to pronounce his last name, who was the new draft pick for the Bucks. Uh,
Uh-huh.
they were playing against each other. And that single regular season game had more than 1 billion viewers. It had more than 10 times the audience of the Super Bowl at the time because all of China and Asia was tuned into this regular season matchup between Yao and Yi. And it was the craziest thing. And Tracy McGrady couldn't believe it. It was just the
Wow.
biggest fanfare, biggest NBA regular season game in history. Not even close.
That is crazy. What a cool story. And it
Crazy,
makes
right?
so much sense. It makes so much sense. I mean, they're basketball crazy in China. Literally, they're basketball
And
crazy.
and that draft pick Yi, who obviously didn't pan out, people were
Mm,
expecting him to be the next Yao. So it was like
I know. Yeah.
Yao versus the new Yao. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would have been even crazier if that one panned out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. Uh,
He had skills too. It was unfortunate to see him not make it.
yeah, there's going to be another. I mean, obviously
Oh,
there
for
are,
sure.
but there will eventually be another star of Yao's level in the NBA.
Oh, for sure. There has to be.
That and the biggest market that NBA is hoping a superstar comes from is India, because if the NBA
Oh
can
yeah.
into the Indian fan base, which contributes over 1 billion cricket fans, if some of those fans become NBA fans, then that'll just further expedite the growth. I want to ask you about collectibles internationally because people in the last couple of years have been making a big fuss about soccer cards and
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
football cards, European football, and how they think that everything is incredibly undervalued because there's so many more fans worldwide. But it doesn't seem like cards have penetrated those countries and global audiences yet. What do you think about that, and how do you think something like that could happen in countries like? Obviously, it's a little bit in China, but not very much in Europe and not very much in India, obviously.
Yeah. And so I think is a gigantic, gigantic opportunity, of course. And you're starting to see it grow. So I know that there's a big show happening right now in Macau, down near the Hong Kong area. I'm not sure if you're following that, but a lot of friends I know are out there saying how big it's gotten, right? And so this is a kind of a, I think it's a once a year show, maybe it's twice a year, but it looks like it's really growing. I know that there's a show in South Korea that's growing in the card category, sports card category. Um, and it really depends on the countries, right? So China, they're heavier in collecting basketball cards. Europe, they're heavier in collecting soccer and F1. So it kind of makes sense to whichever sport is the most popular. But truly, I'm really hoping fanatics who own Hops now will crack that code because I think that the hobby should be much bigger than it is today because it's mostly US. But Fanatics is a very global business. They have the resources to make it happen. So I'm really hoping that they're successful in bringing this hobby to international, whether it be Europe or Asia and so forth. But yeah, I think in terms of the growth, it's happening, right? These shows are happening. There are more card shops. I at the Nationals. I met the largest card shop owners in Germany. These two brothers, and they have an amazing collection too of basketball cards. And yeah, it's just so you're starting to see it. It's just the early stages right now. But look, the thing about collecting itself is universal, right? It's universal. All you have to do is look at coins and that market to understand collecting is universal, right?
Yep.
The coin market in Europe and Asia are just as big as it is in America, but that took time. I mean, coins have been around since the turn since the beginning, and so yeah, it takes time. But in terms of collecting cards, it makes sense. It makes sense for a lot of people. They understand, scarcity, right? The value of scarcity and the value of collecting something that's vintage or the value of collecting a one of one that is valuable, right? So that's just universal. And so in terms of getting folks to follow this hobby in terms of cards, I think it just takes a little bit of push and marketing and so forth to keep growing the categories.
Totally. Two interesting points. Obviously coins have the benefit of having, 4,000 or so years
Yeah, exactly.
of items, whereas sports cards only have, 120, 140 max years to dating back to like the very first cards. And those older ones, the first 70 years, there's not very much of. Um, for the top tier items, like when we're talking about Honus Wagner T206, 52 Mantle, the
The Babe
iconic
Ruth. Yeah,
the Babe Ruth card,
yeah.
all of his iconic cards, and even like say Jordans and high tier LeBrons. Do you think there's a world where those are appreciated in a similar fashion to high end artwork?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I think in time those will be considered a bargain. I truly believe that. I truly
What
believe that, especially for true
specifically?
scarcity. Huh?
What
I'm sorry.
specifically do you think will be a bargain? Depending on rarity or depending on
I think
player?
it
What do you
all
think?
depends. I think it depends on rarity, and to a certain point, the player, of course. But rarity is really everything, right? It's scarcity, right? If I'm holding the very best Mickey 52 mantle ever graded, according to what SGC said, right? Then there's a lot of value in that, right? Because look, there'll always be collectors, and there'll always be collectors who are richer than you, who are willing to pay more than you,
Yeah,
right? And so that's the thing. It's like over time, it'll lead to more and more value. More folks are entering the hobby, more people are collecting, and the prices will continue to go up.
yeah. If the quantity of billionaire collectors goes up, then the value of the Honus Wagner goes up.
That's correct.
There's no other way about it. Because if I had $1 billion, I would have to own a Honus Wagner. There would just be
Yeah,
there would be no question about it. There's nothing else that I could buy that I think is as good of an investment or makes me happy than that. If I had
yeah, absolutely.
that inconsequential to the bank, because they've gotten expensive. Even in the last 5 years, what are they up like 500% or so?
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. So last
Yeah.
last question for you. What gets you the most excited these days? Out of everything you've got going on, what gets you fired up the most?
Honestly, it's a team here. I love the people I work with. And every morning I'm happy. I come into work, I come into this office, and it's like, it's go time. And that's what I'm most excited about is that everyone here is working extremely hard to deliver as much value as possible to this hobby, right? And it's fantastic. It's like a real great atmosphere here. Um, Everyone's just kind of gathered around and coming up with ideas and so forth. So it's just a lot of fun.
That's so great. Well, I'm so happy for you. I'm happy to be involved a little bit, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. And I would be remiss if I didn't say a shout out to the Bleecker team, Jess and Mark. Thanks for putting everything together. Love you guys. Thank you, Buster, for having me. Would love to come back someday.
Awesome. All right, everybody. See you next time.
Cool.
Peace.
Thank you. Bye.